Although he's not the slickest vulture to have ever picked a carcass, he's just the kind to catch us at our darkest for an easy harvest. Just the kind to serve us to the markets and see you lose your home before his donors let him bargain. Who'll give a cop the go-ahead to shoot you in the leg before they let you harm a target. Being an American, I love watching garbage, but it's overload. And this is not my first rodeo. I don't drop mics, but I choke slam podiums, and so we go. Little bit of Troy, a little Roanoke. Karma, come and hold me close. Tell me how you told me so. I'm overboard, blowing out. I'm holy ghosted, stolen shroud, soaked in old petroleum and calling down the rolling clouds. Slowly move my mouth and form the only sound I knew, and it was always out of tune, but it's the ugly fucking truth, and now it's flowing out. Break the banks, flood the basin. I transcribed a translation, spoke it out of Morse code and straight into capsaicin. And God, I hope it suits your station, cause it's my last release that won't require proof of vaccination. I got all my rates adjusted for infection and inflation, bloating and decay and all the perks of radiation. We see the virus for the profits, not the patients. Honey, look at all these records set for all the corporations. When COVID started spreading, they were just a side of celebration. They got one record quarter in the bag and now they're all impatient. They'd rather have a toe to tag than see a mouth to feed, or worse, a kid in need of education. And honey, only money's making that distinction. They're gonna thin the herd straight through starvation to the brink of our extinction. Capitalism favors innovation and is never at a loss for ways to make us hate our liberation, cloud our vision. Somewhere in America, a man with no money in the bank is on his way to City Hall to go complain about proposals for a soup kitchen. And he'll never see the tiny bit of irony that floats in all the tragedy of his position. And he's not the only one, it's an American tradition. So it goes, in endless perpetuity, we never deviated from the mission. I set out the ritual and listened from the sand, held my head between my hands and muttered dying would be easy, life's an everyday decision. And I'm not the only one, it's an American tradition. I'm not the only one, it's an American tradition. I bet you thought that Trump would go to jail and Joe would listen. You're not the only one, it's an American tradition. I bet you thought that Trump would go to jail and Joe would listen.
Our society and our world are full of these invented and built up and contrived facades. And sometimes some people come along with a hammer and smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees. So there's hardly any flowers, there are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars, mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream. And for premium subscribers, doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly, with two eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind. Like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. See, the Democratic voter base will pay them zero. Never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show, stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple Heils. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something title, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blinded idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watch them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. Is it too late for us to ever change? When we are collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they've taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once Yes, we're collecting the dust of better days. And they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts they want changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained. Oh, life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? Yes, sorry. Hi, everyone. It's Indy. What's up? Oh, my God. Has it been another week already? Well, kind of. I mean, it's been a week since this show. I mean, it's only been, 48 hours since I saw you last on boats, smashing into other boats. If you haven't seen that show, check it out. It's hilarious. Reef makes me laugh. He finds some goofy shit every Sunday night, and we watch silly videos for about an hour, hour and a half. This Sunday night, we're going to be doing boat smashing into other boats uncensored, and that means no YouTube. Will be on Rumble and Substack and Kick and everywhere else, but no YouTube on the Ocho this week. It'll just be on the Rumbles. So check that out. This Thursday night, I'm going to tease it right now, but I'm not going to say who it is, but I've got a really special one-on-one lined up. I've got my fingers crossed. I hope it's going to happen. We're supposed to record on Thursday, so until I actually have that recorded and quote unquote in the can, I don't want to say who it is, but I am really excited, and I think you're all going to love it. Tonight, I've got a bunch of stories, and it's the same themes as usual. It's Israel. It's the United States raining terror on the rest of the world, and it's ICE now raining terror on the United States. So we're gonna get into all those things tonight. I tried to kind of thread it together, and then we've got a lightning round. We'll do the GoFundMe's, and we'll get out of here like we usually do every week on Indie News Now Live. That's the name of the show. It's Indie News Now Live. This is based on a website that I created called IndieNewsNow.com. We aggregate news there from over 100 different creators, and a lot of the stories and articles and things you'll see today are from creators that I include their content in IndieNewsNow.com. So that's why I decided to name the show that. This is Indie News Now Live, where we feature a lot of the content that's on the website. And by the way, support independent media, because we are user funded 100%. And if you like what you see, hopefully you will later on, and you'll be able to go to one of these places if you're able to. At least share the show. Please share the show on your social medias, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Substack, on Substack Notes. Share it to Notes, please, if you're able to. And tell people about this show, because it's live every Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. But the ways to support our network financially are to subscribe on Substack. We're live at IndieMediaToday.com. Hello to everybody over there. I'm waving to you, even though you can't see me. I'm giving you hearts. INN Newsletter is the network's newsletter. We are a member of the Indie News Network. I'm actually a co-founder, and I run a lot of the stuff behind the scenes for the network. Patreon.com/Indie News Network. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. If you do ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, it'll pop up your message on screen and scroll it down. And the way I prefer it is at Cash App, $, Indie News Network. That comes right to our bank and no fees. That's the best way to do it. I don't really, I've been an advocate for separating our money from the platforms. So if you want to subscribe via the Substacks, great. But we much prefer it through Ko-fi or Cash App, separate from one of the subscription services. And we appreciate anywhere you want to support, really. I'm far from greedy about that. Really very appreciative. I know how tough things are right now, and every dollar counts, and even, a couple of bucks really does matter. And we do love you for it. Seven Side, how are you? Good to see you tonight. Not surprised. I know you set your alarm for tonight, so happy to see you here tonight. Okay, we are going to start with fuck Israel because, well, we should be doing that. We need to do that every week because they keep murdering people every week. So what's going on? Well, I don't think that this is really a surprise, but late last year, they actually voted to ban a bunch of organizations from coming into Gaza, including Doctors Without Borders. So this is an opinion piece out of Mondoweiss from Jennifer Bing from this week, saying that Israel is attempting to block both aid and solidarity through its new ban. Yes, that's exactly what they're trying to do. So new Israeli rules will ban organizations like Mine from Gaza, ending aid, and cutting vital solidarity with our Palestinian colleagues. That's, again, their plan. The Israeli government's put in place new prohibitively restrictive registration procedures for international organizations, including those providing humanitarian aid in Gaza. Last month, we learned through news reports, as I said earlier, that this organization, the American Friends Service Committee, and 36 others will lose their registration in Israel. That's not cool. Organizations can be denied registration if the org or anyone affiliated with it has spoken out against the actions of the Israeli government. Well, I certainly would not be joining any of those. Rather than simply regulating the presence of international orgs, these rules are a part of a long and increasingly drastic effort to restrict access to the occupied Palestinian territory for orgs that advocate against human rights abuses or for an end to occupation and apartheid. Yeah, I can't imagine why. How about that? Compliance with these far-reaching and invasive procedures is not compatible with core humanitarian principles and would jeopardize the safety of our staff and partners, which is why they had that Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which we're going to talk about later on tonight. And yes, Vicky, or the Peace Board. That's exactly what we're gonna get into that in a little while as well. Shout out to the YouTubers, Go Starts over there on Rumble. Go check out our Rumble channel, rumble.com/C/IndieNewsNetwork. Okay. Over the last 2 years, AFSC staff in Gaza have provided hot meals, food parcels, fresh vegetables, hygiene kits, and other essential supplies to over 1 million people displaced by Israel's genocide. How come there were 1 million people displaced? Why don't we start by asking that question? Our staff have done their work while facing displacement and food scarcity themselves. Why are they facing displacement and food scarcity? While doing this work, they've built and continued relationships with farmers, teachers, and people eager to help their communities survive. But they have one major impediment. Our operations in Gaza are independent, impartial, and guided by the needs of the people we serve. Oh man, that sounds like music to my ears. Although they are going along with not criticizing Israel, which isn't music to my ears. All our staff, vendors, and partners already vetted through established U.S. and international sanctions mechanisms. Our work is guided by our belief in the divine light in every person, and our belief that it is both our right and our responsibility to work against violence and hate. I got no problem with that. This is a principled legacy that we at AFSC have upheld since our founding as an organization in 1917. Doesn't sound like they're going along with apartheid. It sounds like they're trying to help the people that are suffering from apartheid. The consequences of Israeli restrictions on humanitarian aid and the organizations that provide it are deadly and devastating. Naturally. Palestinians in Gaza continue to die from cold, hunger, and preventable illness, while Israel blocks trucks full of food, shelters, and medical supplies from reaching them by design. When I heard the news that organizations like mine that provide humanitarian assistance would no longer be able to send international staff into Gaza, I was devastated. Israel already controls all access into the Strip and will block anyone from a deregistered organization. This announcement also meant I would not be able to go back. My thoughts turned to the moment I entered Gaza in 2015. Not I, but the lady writing this. Okay. It was 1 year after Israeli forces had carried out a 52-day military assault on the Gaza Strip, killing over 2,200 people and demolishing the neighborhoods where some of her Palestinian colleagues from AFSC had lived. After hours of interrogation and inspection by Israeli soldiers at the Erez crossing, she remembers the moment she saw her colleagues waiting for her at the end of the tunnel. As they welcomed her to Gaza, her heart raced and her eyes filled with tears of joy at seeing them alive. Volunteers and staff connected to the Quaker organization that she works for has been crossing into Gaza since 1948, when the UN asked them to organize relief efforts for Palestinian refugees who'd been expelled from their land by Israel at its founding. What? Well, I thought that didn't happen. Wait a minute. Israelis deny that everybody else. Wait, expelled. Look at that. For 2 years, AFSC's Gaza staff helped set up and run 10 refugee camps in Al-Fallujah, in Barej, in Deir al-Balah, in Gaza City, in Jabalia, in Maghazi, in Nusrat, Khan Yunis, and Rafah. That staff worked to provide food, shelter, and sanitation for refugees while setting up educational programs for the children of Gaza. Again, we know how Israel feels about educating the children of Gaza. Many of our staff from the U.S. and around the world came to visit Gaza. From these visits, important bonds were formed. People like Abby Martin filmed documentaries like Gaza Fights for Freedom. Indeed, I still occasionally meet elderly people who recall volunteering in schools and clinics in Gaza during the 50s. In recent decades, AFSC delegation members who met with Palestinian youth were inspired by how young people led community service projects and brought that model with them back to the U.S. This is all Christian Zionist stuff, guys. Just keep in mind, to a point. Like, Quakers are not, yes, they're delivering humanitarian aid, but they're also going along with Zionism here. We visitors to Gaza supported Palestinians by breaking their isolation, affirming the critical work that they were doing to keep their communities alive, and offering international solidarity with the Palestinian struggle. That's all great things. And they were going along with whatever Israel wanted to allow them in to begin with. Just remember that. Palestinians in Gaza supported and inspired us, leading lives in which they faced adversity with compassion, courage, and commitment. Very nice. On our trips to Gaza, we learned to love their spicy shrimp dishes, the alleyways filled with children playing, the couples and families walking along the beach, while fishers unloaded nets full of fish, the music projected from car radios and blasted from speakers in seaside restaurants. Like life, yes, the farmers bringing their fruits and vegetables to crowded markets, and the endless cups of sugary tea and cardamom black coffee served at every occasion. We learned their stories and vowed to bring the world a view of Gaza that countered stereotypes and simplistic representations. This was like what we were told Gaza was like, but we don't know anything about that, at least for the last few years. Because for over 20 years, the people of Gaza have lived under an Israeli-imposed blockade that severely limited travel, trade, and everyday life for its 2 million residents. Access to Gaza was never easy. Unfortunately, neither were the efforts to open Gaza to the world by changing harmful policies that kept Palestinians caged, including the efforts to end the Israeli military occupation. All right. So she talks about UNRWA, right? And now we're seeing that they're looking to delegitimize UNRWA. And now they bombed an UNRWA thing. I got that too. all right, which has provided critical life-saving infrastructure to the support delivery in Gaza and the West Bank. This one's long. All right, Gaza's endured 2 years of genocide. Israel's blocked all international journalists and media orgs from entering, along with almost anyone else who could bear witness to the atrocities. The only people who are get out. You know, you don't see very many get in, and the ones that do are at risk of being killed, with most of the world unable to access Gaza, even by flotilla, to offer relief, reconstruction, protection, and solidarity. Palestinians are forced to face this brutal destruction alone. Now, it will be almost impossible for us to help provide a comprehensive reconstruction that could restore Gaza's health system, education sector, and critical infrastructure. They know this. International staff can't join our colleagues on the ground in Gaza to participate in reconstruction efforts, to provide food and medical supplies, or even to grieve together, because there's a plan for no Palestinians to go forward in Gaza. They want to clear them out and likely move them to Somalia, sadly. Or Somaliland, as Israel wants to call it, that doesn't really exist, but that's a whole other thing. Israel's cruel registration policies force organizations to submit complete staff lists and other sensitive information about staff and their families to the Israeli government. Disclosing operational information to a government credibly accused of genocide and apartheid endangers the lives of our staff and partners. Israel has already killed more than 500 aid workers since October 2023. And because we're unwilling to compromise our values for or further endanger our colleagues, we will no longer be able to walk alongside them and physically support their life-saving work, which is horrible. Why is this? Because Israel decided it's so. I'm not sure when the day will come that I or other international staff will be able to connect again with our colleagues there, or who'll be left, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but I'll say it. All right. Until then, I hope that people will advocate for concrete political and diplomatic action to ensure unhindered humanitarian access and bring an end to the intolerable and ongoing suffering of the Palestinian people. I think it's going to require more than peaceful and political and diplomatic action at this point, because we tried diplomatic for 2.5 years already, and it's not like, I don't know. Anyway, so that was the beginning of Fuck Israel, where we're talking again about blocking aid and solidarity through international org bans. But like I said, just today, I grabbed from an Indie Media Award honoree. By the way, Mondo Weiss, Indie Media Award honoree. And to this author, Sharon Zhang, over at Truth Out. For those who don't know, I created something called the Indie Media Awards with Misty Winston and a couple other people a few years ago, where we kind of tried to pick out who the most consistent, best of the best, quote unquote, were over time. And we put that together at indiemediaawards.substack.com, lists with links to all the people that we've honored. We've had illustrations made of a lot of them, most of them, in their honor, and sent them over. And we've provided this, free for everyone, because we want to amplify the people that we feel get it right most often. So we made that little sound bite that Reef started with to whenever we put on an honoree, I play that sound for those who don't know. Israeli forces demolish UNRWA buildings in an unprecedented attack. That was literally today. Breaking news. UNRWA's head called the attack a new level of open and deliberate defiance of international law by Israel, except we all know that there technically is no such thing as international law. So you can bluster and say all you want, but check this one out. They brought heavy machinery. They didn't just they demolished the structures. On Tuesday, Israeli forces stormed the headquarters of the UN agency dedicated to providing humanitarian assistance for Palestinians, demolishing buildings in an attack that the agency condemned as unprecedented. armed with bulldozers and tear gas because they're under attack from food. The Israeli military forcefully entered the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in Sheikh Jarrah, East Jerusalem. That would be in the West Bank. They targeted at least 2 UNRWA buildings for demolition and fired tear gas in a vocational school serving young refugees in Quilandia on the outskirts of Jerusalem. The Palestinian Authority said that Israeli forces hit a 15-year-old boy in the eye with a rubber bullet, which barely even gets reported because that happens every single day in the occupied territories. An Israeli government official and lawmakers looked on in approval at the violence targeting the premises. Of course they did, which are protected under international law, UN officials said. Yes, you can see how well they're protected as they're being demolished by Israel, a member of the United Nations. Why don't they kick them the fuck out? The attack is one of Israel's single most extreme moves against UNRWA thus far. Wait, after killing 309 of its employees in Gaza? Wait. Okay. Demolishing a building is not nearly as extreme as killing 309 of their employees. And yet they're still a member of the United Nations. And then taking moves to ban and destroy the agency financially. It was condemned by U.S. officials with a very strongly worded letter by their chair. Fucking useless organization. Quote, a new level of open, deliberate. This is Philippe Lazzarini. All right. He's UNRWA General Commissioner General. All right. A new level of open and deliberate defiance of international law. They don't care. They don't care. When are you going to wake the fuck up? Including of the privileges and immunities of the United Nations by the state of Israel. You idiots just had him speak there recently, Netanyahu. You allow a delegate to sit there the entire fucking time while they've been doing this. You blocked Mahmoud Abbas from being able to speak in person. Like, they allow all of this shit. Lazzarini noted that Israeli authorities are slated to cut off water and power to UNRWA buildings in coming weeks, including, again, to facilities dedicated to healthcare and education. Because that's not a war crime or anything. Oh, right, it is. This is a direct result of legislation passed by the Israeli parliament in December, which stepped up existing anti-UNRWA laws adopted in 2024. Nobody sanctions them. Nobody stops them. Nobody does a fucking thing. There's 192 countries that are members of this goddamn organization. What good is it? With Israel openly flouting its obligations as a UN member state, international law has come under increasing attack for too long and is risking irrelevancy in the absence of response by member states. What the fuck do you think Venezuela is saying about that right now? Come on, man. This is embarrassing. The UN has not been using the facilities for months out of concerns of being targeted with violence by Israeli forces. So they just destroyed it to just destroy it for the possibility that they might ever use it again. Israeli officials have said that the demolition was part of the state's new law banning UNRWA in Gaza and the occupied West Bank, labeling it as a terror group without substantial evidence, of course. Everybody's a terrorist except an Israeli. This is yet another one of Israel's attacks on Palestinian life, which seems to happen by the moment. Right? UNRWA provides and coordinates life-saving assistance like food, water, and shelter, on top of providing services like schooling for Palestinian refugees in Palestine and beyond. Many Palestinians have credited their survival during the genocide to UNRWA, which is exactly why Israel wants to get rid of them and has designated them a terrorist organization. Because anybody who helped anyone that they've designated terrorist, which is anyone that lives in the occupied territories at all, man, woman, child, infant, doesn't matter to them, they're now aiding terrorists. So that's why they're starving them. That's the Amalek nonsense. This is all unspooled religious extremist zealotry that the rest of the world is just fucking tolerating. And I'm sick of it. Last week, Israeli police stormed an UNRWA health clinic in East Jerusalem, ordering it to close for 30 days. Again, why would you ever want people to get healthy? The health center serves hundreds of Palestinians a day, and it's the only possibility of having access to primary health care for most of the patients. So naturally, Israel wanted to destroy it. Fuck Israel. And support independent outlets like Truth Out and writers like Sharon Jay, who I'm sure they'd be upset with me being as vulgar as I am, but I'm going to do it because they won't be and they can't be and they need to be all professional or whatever. But I'm not restricted by any of that shit. So next, I'm going to go to Ramsey Baroud over at Indie Media Award honoree antiwar.com. Again, I try to bring all independent sources from the best of the best. A war without headlines, Israel's shock and awe campaign, and again, the West Bank. So we just talked about what was going on with UNRWA in the West Bank. This is Ramsey Baroud. All right, he's pretty famous. We've talked about Ramsey Baroud before, that he's been targeted. A shock and awe. The phrase is apt in describing what Israel has done in the occupied West Bank almost immediately following the events of October 7th, 2023, and the start of the Israeli genocide in Gaza. It's funny, I referenced the shock doctrine, even though I'm not a fan of Naomi Klein. In her book, she defines shock and awe not merely as a military tactic, but as a political and economic strategy, all right, that exploits moments of collective trauma, whether caused by war, natural disaster, or economic collapse, to impose radical policies that would otherwise be resisted. According to Klein, societies in a state of shock are rendered disoriented and vulnerable, allowing those in power to push through sweeping transformations while opposition is fragmented or overwhelmed. Do you hear me, Minnesota? Though the policy is often discussed in the context of U.S. foreign policy from Iraq to Haiti, Israel has employed shock and awe tactics with greater frequency, consistency, and refinement. Again, remember who trains with Israel and the IDF, which is ICE and the cops. Unlike the U.S., which has applied the doctrine episodically across distant theaters, very flowery and very poetic, Israel has used it continuously against a captive population living under its direct military control. Indeed, the Israeli version of shock and awe has long been a default policy for suppressing Palestinians. It's been applied across decades in the occupied Palestinian territory and extended to neighboring Arab countries whenever it suited Israeli strategic objectives, like now in Lebanon. This approach became known as the Dahaya Doctrine, named after the Dahaya neighborhood in Beirut that was systematically destroyed by Israel during its 2006 war on Lebanon. The doctrine advocates the use of disproportionate force against civilian areas, the deliberate targeting of infrastructure, and the transformation of entire neighborhoods into rubble in order to, quote-unquote, deter resistance through collective punishment, which, again, war crime. Gaza has been the epicenter of Israel's application of this tactic. In the years preceding the genocide, Israeli officials increasingly framed their assaults on Gaza as limited or managed wars designed to periodically weaken Palestinian resistance in specific pockets. Those operations were rationalized through the concept of mowing the lawn, disgusting, a phrase used by Israeli military strategists to describe the periodic use of overwhelming violence to reestablish deterrence. Murder people to further terrorize them, you mean? The logic was that Gaza could not be politically resolved, only indefinitely managed through recurrent destruction. So that's what they've been doing. What unfolded in the West Bank shortly after the start of the Gaza genocide followed a strikingly similar pattern. Beginning in October of 2023, Israel launched an unprecedented campaign of violence across the West Bank. Remember, there's no Hamas there. This included large-scale military raids in cities and refugee camps, the routine use of airstrikes, previously rare in the West Bank, the widespread deployment of armored vehicles, and a surge in settler violence carried out with the backing or direct participation of the Israeli army. And now they're blowing up those drone machines and taking out city blocks there, like they were doing in Gaza. The death toll rose sharply, with hundreds of Palestinians killed in a matter of months, including children. Entire refugee camps such as Jenin and Nur Shams and Tul Karam were subjected to systematic destruction. Roads torn up. I covered that. Homes demolished. We covered all of this. Water and electricity networks destroyed. Why? The wells filled in. Medical access severely restricted until they just blew up the hospitals. Israeli forces repeatedly laid siege to communities, preventing the movement of ambulances, journalists, and humanitarian workers, so that they could possibly increase the suffering or the death count or the infection and the permanent disability. At the same time, Israel accelerated the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian communities, particularly in Area C. Dozens of Bedouin and rural villages were forcibly emptied through a combination of military orders, settler attacks, home demolitions, and the denial of access to land and water. Families were driven out through sustained terror designed to make daily life impossible. But remember, Israel calls them the terrorists. It's disgraceful. Yet, the most violent period of Israeli aggression in the West Bank since the Second Intifada has been largely overlooked, in part because of the sheer scale and horror of Israel's genocide in Gaza. We've never taken our eye off the West Bank here, but many people, it's been hard to pay attention to when you've got everything else that's been exploding around the world. The annihilation of Gaza has rendered the violence in the West Bank seemingly secondary in the global imagination, despite the fact that its long-term consequences may prove just as devastating. And remember, 5 million people live in the West Bank versus 2.5 that lived in Gaza. Now it's down to, I guess, about 1.7 million, the last that they had officially announced. At the same time, the war criminal Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Milkowski Netanyahu and his extremist coalition succeeded in presenting themselves to the world as reckless, unrestrained, and ideologically driven, willing and able to expand the cycle of destruction far beyond Gaza into the West Bank and across Israel's borders into neighboring sovereign Arab countries. This performance of extremism functioned as a political strategy. I don't know if that's really political. I mean, okay, the consequences are now unmistakable. Large areas of the West Bank lie in ruins. Entire communities have been shattered, their social and physical fabric deliberately dismantled. According to UNRWA, more than 12,000 Palestinian children remain displaced, increasingly suggesting a displacement that may become permanent rather than temporary. And I think we know that that likely will be in most cases. And again, according to UNRWA, who also Israel has now designated a terrorist organization. Awful. History, however, offers a critical lesson. And this is where we have to, put our hope and our efforts. The Palestinian struggle against Israeli settler colonialism has repeatedly demonstrated that Palestinians do not remain passive indefinitely. Despite the paralysis and fragmentation of their political leadership, Palestinian society has consistently regenerated its capacity for resistance. Israel understands this reality as well. It knows that shock is not indefinite, that fear eventually gives way to defiance, and that once the immediate trauma begins to fade, Palestinians will reorganize and push back against imposed conditions of domination. The minute the bombs actually stop dropping, but apparently they're going to start again in March. What is underway, therefore, is a race against time. Israel is working to consolidate what it hopes will become an irreversible new reality on the ground. One that enables formal annexation, normalizes permanent military rule, and completes the ethnic cleansing of large segments of the Palestinian population, and also has them displaced to another third-party country that doesn't really exist, but Israel wants to, as part of somebody else's country that they're now going to occupy and deposit these people. For this reason, a deeper and even more sustained understanding of current events in the West Bank is essential. We can't take our eye off this ball. Without confronting this reality directly, Israeli plans will proceed largely unchallenged, and have already. To expose, resist, and ultimately defeat these designs is not only a matter of political analysis, but a moral imperative inseparable from supporting the Palestinian people in restoring their dignity and achieving their long-denied freedom. We've got to free them. We got to get Israel out of there. We've got to get them their own homeland and allow them to govern themselves as an actual equal nation, not this bullshit second class. So frustrating. All right. But I got a lot more here because I wanted to bring a couple of videos and not just have me talk the entire time. So this hero, this warrior, this incredible lady, you may know her. She is Bisan, Wizard Bisan from Gaza. She's been censored everywhere you can imagine. So this is her. There's my DMs. Hey, close that. Okay. Let's start this from the beginning. All right. Over 1,000 violations, right? That's a lot. So let's play this.
Hey, Israel violated the ceasefire more than 1,000 times in Gaza Strip only in 3 months. And actually, this sentence cannot be tolerated if Lebanon violated the ceasefire that Israel is violating right now. If Iran or Yemen or any other African or Arabic nation violated a US-backed agreement. But when it comes to the US or any other white colonial forces, we need to pay respect, to accept their agreements, to not show up against any violation, you know? Although we know that Israel is so fragile and cannot move one stone, cannot shoot a single bullet without being supported by the US, so alien in the region Aslan, and that everything is because of the US. The genocide was the US genocide. All the conflicts in the region are the US conflicts in the region. And the US and other forces backed by the UAE, for example, etc., etc., these are the US decisions. Although we know that sooner or later, we need to get rid of these forces, these empires, to live in a just, normal life, because they are the reason of injustice, colonialism, exploitation. We're still turning around the solution. We're not uniting against, as individuals, as governments, or as organizations, as families. We are not uniting against the expansion of these colonial powers. At the same time, they are uniting against us, the peoples. Anyways, what I know is that we won't be able to live normally. We won't be able to return the rights to the people. We won't be able to obtain or sustain a just environment for our next generations until the US and the other colonial empires as systems and as governments, not as people, not as free people, not as affected people, until these governments and these fascists and rich people who are exploiting us and our lives and stealing them, until they fall, we won't be able to live a normal life. Don't lie to yourselves. Hey, Ezra.
Yeah, I mean, she's going through it. So I think it's important to bring her perspective on all this, and she's right. You know, colonialism is a problem. It's also like draining our resources that we could be using to help Americans here, but they choose not to do that either because we know why. Now, we know this guy too, and we actually had some good news here. Now, back at the campus protests, he actually was leading at Ohio State. I think he was a freshman then, maybe a sophomore, 19 years old. Ohio State came after him and expelled him from school. Well, the ACLU filed a lawsuit on his behalf and to clear him and get him reinstated, or at least to hold Ohio State accountable. This is Guy Christensen. So I want to play this now for you guys here. So let me go back. Let's go back and unmute.
I was expelled by my former school, Ohio State University, for engaging in protected political speech. Specifically, I was expelled for criticizing Israel and Zionism. My name is Guy Christensen. I'm an activist, a student, and a young person fed up with corrupt politics. And last year, the very same week our community rallied to send $250,000 in food to Gaza, Zionists doxed my attendance at Ohio State and immediately began pressuring them to get rid of me. At the same time, news outlets across Israel worked in coordination with pro-Israel outlets in the United States to smear my name and characterize my activism as violent, to paint me as a killer. Congressmen, including our dear AIPAC millionaire Richie Torres, and members of the Trump regime's Department of Justice came out of the woodworks to jump on the dog pile. And instead of protecting me, their student, Ohio State University, chose to immediately kick me out, denying me any chance to appeal or be heard. They told me I would be arrested if I tried to come back. And they didn't stop there. Ohio State took my academic transcripts and placed a permanent label marking me as a safety threat to campus. And the cherry on top is that when this all happened, I wasn't even in the state of Ohio. I wasn't even attending classes. I didn't even plan on returning to campus for months, because it was summer vacation. For many of you, this is the first time you've ever heard me talk about this. And one of the hardest things over the last 8 months has been staying silent while the ACLU fought for my rights. And I'm sincerely happy to be able to tell you right now that this week a federal judge in the Southern District of Ohio ruled in our favor on all counts, writing that Ohio State's expulsion likely violated my First Amendment and 14th Amendment rights to free speech and due process. They ordered Ohio State to expunge my records and clear my name, saying that my videos on Israel and Palestine, which this entire case revolved around, were protected by the First Amendment and did not incite any violence. I have a million things to tell you guys going forward. But first, you need to know how grateful I am, because I know, as well as you do, that there are thousands of young Americans just like me who weren't as lucky, who didn't get the ACLU to represent them, who didn't get all this support, who were punished and expelled the same way for speaking out in support of Palestine. And we must keep fighting. We must keep fighting to save our rights and achieve justice for everyone who was made to suffer for speaking out. What happened to me is not unique. What happened to me is not unique. Americans' rights across the board are being violated when it comes to free speech, especially speech critical of Israel or in support of Palestinians. I need you guys to know how incredible it feels to finally be vindicated. As soon as we wrap this case up, I will tell you everything. I will talk for hours. But right now, I'm only asking you to do two things. Always, always, always fight for your rights and never let it go. And second, make sure you don't lose me to censorship, to Larry Ellison buying TikTok, whatever it may be. Go to my profile and subscribe to me for free on Substack, where you can keep up with all my future work and messages. The last thing I need to do is thank the ACLU and Palestine Legal for clearing my name. A thank you to those in the community in Columbus, Ohio, who stood in solidarity with me. A thank you to my friends and family, who never made me feel like they were disappointed in me for whatever reason. I need to thank you all for the love you've shown me in real life and on this platform over the last 8 months. You didn't know it, but you helped me keep going. I love you guys, and we will talk as soon as I'm allowed. Free Palestine, baby. 8 months ago, I was expelled by my former school, Ohio State University, for engaging in protected
Congratulations.
political
Hold on,
speech.
let me mute that. And that's Guy Christensen. Let me actually put up a link to his Substack or to that article here. I'll drop it in the chat for you, Mark, because I see you out there. Mark also has a good Substack for you guys to subscribe to, Mark Taylor. But yeah, Guy, we got to win, and it feels really good because I was one of the people that was covering this when he was expelled, and there weren't many people that were talking about it. And I actually started reaching out to him at that time, and he wasn't able to tell me anything, obviously, just like he wasn't able to say anything here. But it was really cool when I saw that I was able, that I reached out to him. And before I even saw this video, congratulated him for, on the win. And yeah, there you go. Political cartoons and art for anyone to use. Go check out Mark Taylor's Substack over there. Seven Sign, yes, he is really wise. He's got a lot of good people around him. I wish him all the best, and he's doing good work to help bring more recognition to the cause, for sure. So we got a little bit of good news there. Now, not so good news is what's going on right now over in Gaza, obviously, or what Trump is trying to do in forming what will be the quote unquote government or whatever going forward for Gaza. So he's decided to create this thing, and it's not just him, obviously. It's the financial backers that put him where he is, and all the Zionists that are trying to orchestrate this, and the big money people. Let me see if I can go. No, I guess I can't go into reader mode. This is from The Cradle. Founders of the deadly Gaza Humanitarian Foundation shaping the new U.S.-backed administration for Gaza. So the organization that led to thousands of Palestinians being murdered in these cattle-like pens that they made people travel miles to get to on foot in heat, those are the people that are going to oversee this. Oh, we can see how this is going to go. All right. And there's Trump meeting with Netanyahu. From The Cradle, many of the figures emerging as key players in the new U.S.-backed administration for Gaza were central to Washington's Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the FT reported. That's Financial Times. The GHF was a deadly U.S.-Israel aid scheme, because it didn't deliver much aid, introduced in May, which was responsible for the deaths of over 1,000 starving Palestinian aid seekers. According to the Financial Times report, the Gaza Executive Committee, set to be announced soon, which will operate directly under a Trump-led Board of Peace. It's absolutely insane. All right, is being shaped by several people close to Israel. What a surprise. No way. This includes Netanyahu's chief military advisor, Roman Goffman, and U.S. and Israeli investor Michael Eisenberg, who's been advising the Israeli premier since the start of the ceasefire, where over 1,000 Palestinians have been killed. All right. Others involved are U.S.-Israeli policymaker Aryeh Lightstone and Israeli cybersecurity entrepreneur Liron Tankman, who's Mossad linked. All four of these men were involved in the establishment of GHF. The deadly aid scheme resulted in the killing of around 2,000, like I said, over 1,000 Palestinians within 6 months. So sure, let's hand them more responsibility. Under the pretext of humanitarian assistance, Palestinians were crammed into tight spaces and handed limited quantities of aid for months as Israeli troops and U.S. contractors regularly opened fire on unarmed aid seekers, which again, we covered on this show all summer long, or on, how do we miss that? All summer long. The announcement of Trump's Board of Peace, again, it's not Trump's, was meant to take place this week, but has been delayed. Okay, according to reports, the executive committee that will operate under the board could be announced as early as Wednesday. Originally, Tony Blair's name was on there, but then I heard that they were going to put a $1 billion price tag on everyone that was joining, and he didn't want to be part of anything that had a $1 billion price tag on it. 18 Palestinian officials have received invitations to join the committee that will replace Hamas. Okay, but that's not to join the governing board. Ali Shaath, a former deputy planning minister in the Palestinian Authority, has been designated to head the committee, while retired intelligence official Mohammad Nisman is expected to assume control over security. So again, not really run by Palestinians. I mean, Mohammad Nisman, I believe, is a Palestinian. 18 officials. But they're all Palestinian Authority. No, this is who Israel wants to run Gaza afterwards, not the Palestinians choosing. According to the sources, the committee is scheduled to hold its meeting in Egypt's capital on Thursday, the sources said. Well, let me guess. Did Israel bomb that too? It would be appropriate because it's the Board of Peace, all right, which will be announced later, is expected to include 15 world leaders from countries such as the UK, France, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt. Hamas has repeatedly vowed that it is ready to hand over governance to an independent body of technocratic Palestinians as envisioned in the truce. That's not what they're going to get. And then the question is are they going to then hand that over? Well, sounds like they're not going to have much of a choice. It rejects disarmament until an independent Palestinian state is formed. I'm all with them on that, but has expressed an openness to an initiative that would freeze its weapons for a period of time. That doesn't sound promising. Okay. The group has stressed that the second phase of the ceasefire deal cannot commence until Israel halts all violations. Israel said that they've already started the second part, so they don't care. Of course, we know that Israel has killed at least 442 Palestinians since the ceasefire, quote unquote, U.S.-backed, was reached in October of late last year. It wasn't reached. It was thrown down upon them. The Gaza Health Ministry reported 442 and over 1,200 injured. We never talk about them enough. Tel Aviv continues to indiscriminately target civilians, justifying the attacks under the pretext of alleged security threats. All right. While persisting in the violent pursuit of resistance leaders with no regard for the terms of the ceasefire agreement, because they never intended to honor it in the first place. The blockade on Gaza also remains in place, further deepening the humanitarian crisis. All right. Sources told the Times of Israel in a report published on January 11th that the Israeli army has already drawn up plans for a new assault in Gaza aimed at expanding the areas under Tel Aviv's control in violation of the ceasefire again. So who's stopping that again? Trump's not even stopping that. Like, that is against what he wants to, quote unquote, do. Unbelievable. And nobody says shit. We just keep moving on like nothing's happening. Netanyahu continues to come here and give speeches and get standing rounds of applause by Congress. All right. But $1 billion price ticket. Now, I had something from Fee. No, that's not it. Here it is. Let me open this up. So this was sent to me late. Let me move that back over here. Fiorella, we all know and love Fiorella. There is no such thing as a Gaza Board of Peace. Zionists are still killing Palestinians every day, and the world, including supposed anti-hegemonic leadership, has excused it. Oh, by the way, yeah, Russia confirms that Trump asked Putin to join. That's not good. I'm sure Europe is thrilled that that happened. Let me tell you. Wow. Unreal. Love you, Lady Alex M. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging. Have a good night to everyone. I understand, we're here a while, but we're going to be here a while. That was just our first story. That was just fuck Israel for the first hour. So we're still going to talk about Iran, and we're still going to talk about ICE. But before we do, all right, that's the end of that segment. So, hi, everybody. What's up? Kameshwari Kate, good to see you. Golden Monarch. It's almost like Trump inviting Putin would be triggering Russiagate again. Well, yes, that would definitely be trigger. Yes, Ghost Art says goodnight to Lady Alex M over on Rumble. It's kind of weird, right? Fun fact, yes, we heard about Larry Ellison having to rename his yacht because it literally said, I'm a Nazi. I thought that was a joke. And Reef had to double and triple check it to make sure. No, that's real. I saw Sean was here. I saw Descent Bloom here. Donna Everett, good to see you. Grift, yep. All right, this is that peace board, yep. Nonsense. All right, they're still trying to figure out who it's going to be. But he's saying that if you want a permanent seat on that peace board of the 15, you need to come up with $1 billion and put in that by the end of the first year. Otherwise, it's going to rotate on a 3-year basis. Again, how does he get to decide? It's unbelievable. And they just stand there and watch. It's madness. It really is. So, standing by and watching all this going on, I'm losing my mind. Support independent media. Ways to do that. These are the amazing people that have already done it, and there's a lot of people already in this audience right now that have been there, that have done that and continue to. We really appreciate it. We're completely user funded and self funded. The ways to support our Cash App $ Indie News Network. We got ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. That'll pop up a message on screen. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. Do it as friends and family. And then Patreon.com/Indie News Network if you want to subscribe monthly. I think there's an annual over there. IndieNewsNow.com. You can tip the network at any amount that you want. And then subscribe monthly or annually at Substack over at IndieMediaToday.com, where we're live right now, and at INNNewsletter.com, where I publish a weekly update for INN. And there are several exclusive podcasts that go live and publish over there after they're done. So, fuck Israel, man. It's a mess. 62 countries are complicit in genocide. Totally agree. The stuff with UNRWA is just, I don't understand how everybody just allows that to go on. 307 UN aid workers murdered by Israel, and nobody says shit. It's so frustrating. It really is. I don't even know how else to describe it. And now they're just blatantly conducting intelligence operations in public and claiming it and admitting it with no consequence, and they don't care. So, friend of the network, original co-founding network member, The Dissident, which you can find at the307.substack.com. The Dissident publishes this. Former head of Israeli Military Intelligence Directorate said that there is a very significant influence operation by the U.S. in Iran. And then today he published another one where Channel 12 is admitting that they had an influence operation there. So what are we talking about here? Recently, the Israeli newspaper Ma'ariv interviewed the head of the Military Intelligence Directorate in Israel from 2018 to 2021, Tamir Haiman. He revealed that the U.S. currently has a significant influence operation on the ground in Iran. Wait, really? CIA? NED has Regime change destabilization operations in Iran? No way, you're kidding. In the interview, Haiman said, quote, if the question is there zero operation right now? The answer is no, because there already is an operation. There is currently a very significant influence operation by the U.S., referring to the current unrest happening in Iran. Yes, the push for a color revolution, which was unsuccessful, or so far has been. He added, quote, the sequence of news that is received from within Iran, rumors that are coming, videos that are coming. There are many things that are happening that have no explanation. It could be a coincidence, and it could be something else. Simply put, an influence effort is an effort that operates primarily in the cyber realm and in the realm of local disruption and subversion. And there are some. Basically, we made it up. We're making it up. We're trying to create a narrative, and we're trying to get other people to believe in this and to then act and invade and violate sovereignty based upon it. Along with this, Tamir Haiman acknowledged that U.S. sanctions were the cause of the economic issues that in Iran that sparked the initial protests in Iran, which are apparently being exploited by American and Israeli intelligence, saying, quote, there's the attempt, as we heard tonight from Trump, that this is a path of negotiation with the Americans. This is really the only thing that can save the Iranian economy, which he really cares about, right? The lifting of sanctions. He really cares about saving the Iranian economy. This comment comes at the same time that Tamir Morag, who is the diplomatic correspondent for the Netanyahu-linked Channel 14 in Israel, so they're super hardline, it's like OAN, reported that, quote, foreign actors are arming the protesters in Iran with live firearms, which is the reason for the hundreds of regime personnel killed, unquote. Again, this is coming right from the Israelis. They're admitting it because nobody's stopping them, so why not? American and Israeli officials have been fairly open about the fact that Israeli intelligence is currently operating on the ground in Iran also, with the former Secretary of State and CIA director on New Year's Eve saying, Happy New Year to every Iranian in the streets and also to every Mossad agent walking beside them, and the Israeli Heritage Minister Amichai Eliyahu saying, quote, when we attacked in Iran during Rising Lion, we were on its soil and we knew how to lay the groundwork for a strike. I can assure you that we have some of our people operating there now. Now, I know also that Iran has published some Israeli plans for some of their sites, and that has made Israel kind of nervous. But by now, Tamir Morag has revealed that there are very significant influence operations by the U.S. in Iran, which include operates primarily in the cyber realm, right, and in the realm of local disruption and subversion, and according to Morag, apparent operations to arm protesters in Iran to kill Iranian government officials. So now we're arming moderate rebels. Sounds a lot like Syria, doesn't it? Referring to the protests in Iran, the U.S. government connected private intelligence firm Stratfor, wrote, quote, the United States may also try to intervene, such as by covertly helping to organize the protesters, like they wouldn't know. Something that's apparently already underway through American influence operations. So Americans have connections within Iran, or at least they want you to believe that they have enough connections within Iran that they could funnel weapons and peddle influence directly into the country. But how? When we've been sanctioning them for decades on end, they're skeptical of any American that shows up there. Who the hell are they going to believe as any American that might be, somebody that they might see as an ally? Why would they see any American coming in as an ally, especially if they're giving them weapons to kill Iranian government officials? That's kind of weird. It sounds more like they've got a bunch of people that maybe Israelis that they've kind of planted there that live there imposters living as Iranians, even though they are actually Israelis, spies. And Iran called that out. Again, I'm speculating. I don't know. I don't really understand quite how this could happen. That's what I'm asking. I'm trying to work this out myself. But I decided to go to another Indie Media Award honoree to try to get some answers, and that would be at Mint Press News. And I talked about a month ago how Mint Press News is under assault, and their $51,000 Indiegogo campaign was seized at the last minute. And even though they had completed it and were about to cash out and receive it, they decided that they weren't going to release the funds. And now all of a sudden, Mint Press needs that money and it's not available to them, and they have to start over again. And they've already recovered 20,000 of that 51. Thanks to everyone that has already gotten their money back and then switched it over to their new campaign. So visit mintpressnews.com and you'll be able to support them. But this is another Indie Media Award honoree, journalist I really respect by the name of Alan McLeod. You probably heard of him. Revealed the CIA-backed NGOs fueling the Iran protests. So it's not just CIA, it's not just NED, but they used NGOs. What are NGOs? They're non-governmental organizations, privately funded organizations. So Alan writes that as waves of deadly demonstrations and counter-demonstrations hit Iran, Mint Press examines the CIA-backed NGOs helping to stir the outrage and foment more violence. One of them is appropriately named Human Rights Activists in Iran, frequently referred to as HRA or HRAI in the media. The group and its media arm, the Human Rights Activists News Agency, the HRANA, have become the go-to group of experts for Western media and are the source of many of the most inflammatory claims and shockingly high casualty figures reported in the press. In the past week alone, their assertions have provided much of the basis for the stories in CNN, Wall Street Journal, NPR, ABC News, Sky News, New York Post, among others. They're the corporate media darling because they say exactly what the State Department wants them to. And in, of course, a passionate plea for leftists to support the protests, Owen Jones, fuck that guy, wrote in The Guardian on Tuesday that HRAI are a respected group whose death toll proclamations are probably significant underestimates. Yeah, you think? Fuck that guy again. Check out Zay Squirrel. Zay Squirrel's been burning down Owen Jones all week long. Yet, what none of these reports mention is that human rights activists in Iran is bankrolled by the Central Intelligence Agency through its cutout organization, the NED, which, by the way, every single Democrat voted to continue to fund, and I'll have that during the lightning round. Independent. Remember I talked about 15, 18 months ago already. In October of 2024, I did an article where I literally put independent in quotes like that, talking about independent media figures that were actually corporate media figures that were now going independent. All right. And independent NGOs. Now, so they figured out that, oh, well, we're not connected to we're independent. Brought to you by CIA. So, who is human rights activists in Iran? Well, they're based in Fairfax, Virginia, just a stone's throw away from CIA headquarters in Langley. How convenient. It describes itself as a non-political association of activists dedicated to advancing freedom and rights in Iran. So important. On its website, it notes that, quote, because the organization seeks to remain independent, it doesn't accept financial aid from neither political groups nor governments. Yet in that same paragraph, it notes that, quote, HRAI has also been accepting donations from the National Endowment for Democracy, a nonprofit, non-governmental organization in the United States of America. Oh my God, really? The level of NED investment into HRAI has been substantial, to say the least. Michael Tracy, who we don't like, has found that in 2024 alone, that the NED had apportioned well over $900,000 just towards this one organization. Ugh. Another NGO widely cited in recent media reports on the protests is the Abdulrahman Borahman Center for Human Rights in Iran, the ABC-HRI. This group, again, quoted widely in corporate media by WAPO, PBS, ABC News, and just like with the HRAI, these reports also failed to disclose that their proximity to the U.S. national security state. Go figure. Although it doesn't mention it in its funding disclaimer, the center is supported by NED. Last year, NED described the center as a partner organization and awarded its director, Roya Borahman, their Goler T. Butcher Medal for Democracy Promotion, because we know that the NED certainly gives out awards to organizations that are not CIA friendly, right? Here we go. Roya and her org have worked rigorously and objectively to document human rights violations committed by the regime in Iran, which conveniently the CIA can use as justification for invasions and wars and subversion tactics. All right. The work of the center is an indispensable resource for victims to seek justice and hold perpetrators accountable under international law. How are we doing about Israel, by the way, when it comes to that? Oh, right. NED is proud to support Roya and the center in their advocacy for human rights and the tireless pursuit of a democratic future for Iran. How about the tireless pursuit of a democratic future for Gaza or the West Bank, you fuckers? Nah. In addition to this, sitting on the center's board of directors is a controversial academic, Francis Fukuyama, a former NED board member and an editor of its Journal of Democracy publication. Remember that when it comes to NED, when it comes to government stuff, when it comes to intelligence, they always name the most disgusting stuff with the most benign names, like Journal of Democracy. You can be sure that the most horrific shit is going on and being advocated for in that publication. If anything, the Center for Human Rights in Iran has gone further than those other two organizations. Again, widely cited across corporate media, the CHRI has been the source of many of the goriest and most lurid stories coming out of Iran, where they made it up. A Monday article in the WAPO, for example, leaned on the CHRI's expertise to report that Iranian hospitals were being overwhelmed and had even run out of blood to treat the victims of government repression. Does this sound like a propaganda factory to you? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Quote, a massacre is unfolding, even though it's not. The world must act now to prevent further loss of life, they said hysterically with their hair on fire while nothing was actually happening, a CHRI spokesman said. Given President Trump's recent threats about U.S. military attacks on Iran, the implications of the statements were clear. Yes, they were. We need justification for invasion. And yet, with the other NGOs profiled, none of the corporate media outlets citing the Center for Human Rights in Iran noted its close connections to the U.S. national security state. Huh. How amazing that omission. It's got to just be a minor oversight by the networks, right? Nothing intentional. Sure. CHRI, an Iranian human rights group based in New York City and Washington, D.C. Oh, yeah, by the way, they're based in New York City and D.C. They're based here. Was identified by the government of China as directly funded by the NED. Plug it into DeepSeek, they'll tell you. The claim is far from outlandish, given that CHRI board member Marangiz Kar is a former Reagan Faskel Democracy Fellow at the NED. And in 2002, at a star-studded gala on Capitol Hill, First Lady Laura Bush and future President Joe Biden presented Carr with the NED's annual Democracy Award. Wait, somebody else got a Democracy Award too recently, I heard. Unbelievable. Okay. So remember that NED is the regime change organization. They're the reason why Ukraine is the way it is. They're the reason why now Venezuela is the way it is. The NED was created in 1983 by the Reagan administration after a series of scandals that had seriously damaged the image and the reputation of CIA. Remember the Church Committee, which we've talked about on this show. A 1975 U.S. Senate investigation into CIA activities, right, found that the agency had masterminded the assassination of several foreign heads of state, that they were involved in a massive domestic surveillance campaign against progressive groups, which never really stopped, had infiltrated and placed agents in hundreds of U.S. media outlets, which never really stopped. That's called Operation Mockingbird. And was carrying out shocking mind control experiments on unwilling American participants, which never really stopped. Look up MK Ultra, but I didn't say that. Technically a private entity, although receiving virtually all its funding from the federal government and now being staffed by ex-spooks, spooks meaning spies, the NED was created as a way to outsource many of the agency's most controversial activities, especially overseas regime change operations. How convenient. It would be terrible for democratic groups around the world to be seen as subsidized by the CIA. That's what NED's longtime president said in 1986. Co-founder Alan Weinstein agreed. A lot of what we do today was done covertly 25 years ago by CIA. They just say the quiet parts out loud and hope that nobody's paying attention. Part of the CIA's mission was to create a worldwide network of media outlets and NGOs, Drop Site News, that would parrot CIA talking points, Drop Site News, passing it off as credible news, Drop Site News. As former CIA task force leader John Stockwell admitted, quote, I had propagandists all over the world, Ryan Grimm. Stockwell went on to describe how he helped flood the world with fake news demonizing Cuba. Quote, we pumped dozens of stories about Cuban atrocities and Cuban rapists to the media. We ran fake photographs that made almost every newspaper in the country through the Associated Press, the UPI, and Reuters, which are the biggest propagandists in the world. We didn't know if one single atrocity committed by the Cubans. It was pure, raw, false propaganda to create an illusion of communists eating babies for breakfast. Does that sound familiar? Like 40 beheaded babies in Gaza, maybe? Huh. Yeah, interesting. Mike Pompeo, a former CIA director, so we lie, we cheat, we steal. Remember, he said famously on stage, what right there, alluded to this being an active CIA policy. At a 2019 talk at Texas A&M University, he famously said, quote, when I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. Well, I was a CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. We had entire training courses on it. By the way, he wants to be president someday, fam. Keep your eye out for that. One of the NED's greatest successes came in 1996, when it successfully swung elections in Russia, spending vast amounts of money, where'd that come from, to ensure that U.S. puppet ruler Boris Yeltsin would remain in power. Yeltsin, who came to power in a 1993 coup that dissolved parliament, was deeply unpopular, and it appeared that the Russian public were ready to vote for a return to communism. The NED and other American agencies flooded Russia with money and propaganda and backed all their gangsters. All right, ensuring that the man remained in power. They also sent PR agencies to get him elected. The story was cataloged in a famous edition of Time magazine, all right, whose page title was emblazoned with the words, Yanks to the rescue, the secret story of how American advisors helped Yeltsin win. They also, by the way, created a movie about this that Jeff Goldblum and Anthony LaPaglia starred in called Spinning Boris, which is fucking hilarious and great. If you ever get a chance to check out Spinning Boris, if they ever show it anymore on TV, definitely check it out and you'll see how much propaganda they pushed through that and how much they knew they were doing propaganda at the time. 6 years later, the NED provided both the finances and brains for a briefly successful coup d'etat against Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez. That was again in 2001. Remember that the NED spent hundreds of thousands of dollars flying coup leaders like Maria Corina Machado and Juan Guaido back and forth to D.C. All right. After the coup was overturned and the plot was exposed, NED funding to Machado and her allies actually increased. And the organization has continued to fund her and her political organizations for decades. This has not been a new thing. The NED would have more luck in Ukraine, remember, playing a key role in the successful 2014 Maidan revolution that they deny ever happened, that toppled President Viktor Yanukovych and replaced him with a pro-U.S. successor, Poroshenko. The Maidan affair followed a tried and tested formula with large numbers of people coming out to protest and a hard core of trained paramilitaries, neo-Nazis, carrying out acts of violence aimed at destabilizing the government and provoking a military response. They're called the Azov Battalion in this case. Assistant Secretary for European and Eurasian Affairs and future NED board member Victoria Newland, who flew to Kiev to signal the U.S. government's full support for the movement to oust Yanukovych, even handing out cookies to protesters in the city's main square. That was before she gained all that weight, by the way. A leaked telephone call showed that the new Ukrainian Prime Minister, Arseniy Yatsenyuk, was directly chosen by Newland. They were trying to decide between her or the boxer, Vitaly Klitschko. She says Yats is the guy. She can be heard telling U.S. Ambassador Pyatt, citing his experience and friendliness with Washington as key factors. The 2014 Maidan Revolution and its aftermath would lead to Russia's invasion of Ukraine 8 years later. Why? Because Ukraine kept bombing the separatists in the Donbass, the Russian speakers. It wasn't just by accident. Russia didn't just invade because of no reason. They didn't invade because they wanted to steal the territory. They invaded to protect the Russian speakers that were literally declared themselves an independent state and were asking Russia for help in stopping the bombing, which had actually started on February 16th of 2022. Just across the border in Belarus, the NED planned similar actions to overthrow President Lukashenko. At the time of the attempt in 2020 or 21, all right, the NED was pursuing 40 active projects inside the country. They're like a virus. They set up shop. I don't even know how they're allowed to operate, how they can create these organizations using foreign money and foreign influence flooded into the country. I guess they find willing participants that are willing to put their name behind it, that'll take the U.S. cash and do that. One Zoom call, infiltrated and covertly recorded by activists, all right, on a Zoom call, all right, the NED's senior Europe program officer, Nina Oganenova, boasted that the groups leading the nationwide demonstrations against Lukashenko were trained by her organization. They can't wait to brag about it. They're so proud of themselves. Quote, "We don't think that this movement that is so impressive and so inspiring came out of nowhere, that it just happened overnight," noting that the NED had made a significant contribution to the protests, like funding and backing and encouragement and guidance from D.C. Remember, on that same call, NED President Gershman noted that we support many, many groups, and we have a very, very active program throughout the country. and many of the groups obviously have their partners in exile, bragging that, again, that the Belarusian government was powerless to stop them. We're not like Freedom House or NDI and the IRI. We don't have offices, so if we're not there, they can't kick us out. Yeah, because you do it through cutout aid organizations and fake charities. He compared the NED to other U.S. regime change organizations, but they still are one. The attempted color revolution did not succeed in Belarus. However, as demonstrators were met with large counter-demonstrators and Lukashenko remains in power to this day, all right, the NED's actions were a key figure in his decision to abandon his relationship with the West and ally with his country, Belarus, with Russia. And then what happened just after their failure in Belarus? The NED fomented another regime change attempt, this time in Cuba. They spent millions infiltrating and buying off pliant musical artists, especially in the hip-hop community, in an attempt to turn local popular culture against its revolution. Led by Cuban rappers, the U.S. attempted to rally the people into the streets, flooding social media with calls from celebrities and politicians alike to topple the government. Cuban people are smarter than that. This didn't translate into boots on the ground, however, and the fiasco was written off sarcastically as the U.S. Bay of Tweets, which is really what it was. They can't stop bringing American flags to their protests. It's just like they can't stop bringing Israeli flags to the Iran protests. So many of the most visible protest movements in the world and the world over have been quietly masterminded by the NED. This includes the Hong Kong protests in 2019 and 20. We remember those, wherein the agency again funneled millions to the movement's leaders to keep people in the streets as long as possible. The NED continues to work with the Uyghur Muslims and the Tibetan separatist groups in the hopes of destabilizing China. Remember all that Uyghur Muslim stuff? The million people in death camps, all that nonsense? CIA NED talking point. Complete bullshit. They just made it up. Other known NED meddling projects include interfering with elections in France and Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Poland. Oh yeah, most recently, Honduras too. Allegedly. It's precisely for those reasons, therefore, that accepting funding from NED should be unthinkable for any serious NGO or human rights organization, as so many that do have been front groups for American power and clandestine regime change operations. It's also why the public should be extremely wary about any claims made by organizations like these on the payroll of a CIA cutout organization, especially those that attempt to hide that fact. They constantly fail to disclose this conflict of interest. Journalists, too, have a duty to scrutinize any statements that are made by these groups and inform their readers and viewers about their inherent conflicts of interest, like we just said. And now they've got Iran in their crosshairs. Apart from funding the 3 U.S.-based human rights NGOs profiled here, the NED is also spearheading a myriad of operations targeting the Islamic Republic, not just here, but in other countries around the world. According to its 2025 grant listings, there are currently 18 active NED projects for Iran, although the agency doesn't divulge any of the groups they're working with. What a shock. Why would they not want to disclose that if they're funded by the government? Wouldn't we require that? Oh, right. They're allowed to just be clandestine because nobody's stopping them. And I thought the Trump administration was getting rid of the NED and the US aid. I guess not. It also refuses, by the way, to divulge any hard details about these projects, beyond rather bland descriptions, to include empowering a network of frontline and exiled activists inside Iran. That's agents, promoting independent journalism, and establishing media platforms to influence the public. Be wary of those organizations. Monitoring and promoting human rights. Sure. Just like the Hamilton 68 dashboard did. Remember that? Fostering internet freedom by censoring anybody that disagrees with us. Training student leaders inside Iran and arming them to shoot their leaders. Advancing policy analysis, debate, and collective actions on democracy. God, I can't even make up what bullshit that is. And finally, fostering collaboration between Iranian civil society and political activists on a democratic vision and raise awareness on civic rights within the legal community, which you know we really care about. The NED and the CIA certainly cares about civil rights inside Iran. Give me a fucking break. The organization will facilitate debate on transition models from authoritarianism to democracy. Transition models? It's not up to you to decide how that country operates moving forward, or at all. They have sovereignty that you don't get to decide how they operate. Fuckers. Reading between the lines, thanks, Alan, the NED is attempting to build up a widespread network of media outlets, NGOs, activists, intellectuals, student leaders, and politicians who will all sing from the same hymn sheet, that of transitioning from authoritarianism, i.e. the current system of government, a religious authoritarianism, to democracy, i.e. a U.S. hand-picked puppet government. In other words, regime change. Yep. Iran, of course, has been in American crosshairs ever since the removal of the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, during the Islamic Revolution of 78-79. Pahlavi himself had been kept in place by the CIA, who engineered a coup against the democratically elected government of Mohammad Mossadegh in 52 and 53. Mossadegh was a secular liberal reformer. He angered Washington by nationalizing the country's oil industry. Wow, go figure. Carrying out land reform and refusing to crush the communist Tudeh party because we don't control their country, or at least we didn't. The CIA, who is again the NED's parent organization, infiltrated Iranian media, paying them to run hysterical anti-Mossadegh content, carried out terror attacks inside Iran, again with Mossad, also the early stages of Mossad, bribed officials to turn against the president, cultivated ties with reactionary elements within the military. Again, they terrorized Jews that were in Iran during that time to force them to want to move to Israel. All right. And paid protesters to flood the streets at anti-Mossadegh rallies. The Shah reigned for 26 bloody years between 53 and 79 until he was overthrown in the Islamic Revolution. Remember that we also supported Saddam Hussein's Iraq, who almost immediately invaded Iran, leading to a bitter 8-year-long conflict that killed at least 500,000 people. Washington supplied Hussein with a wide range of weapons, including components for chemical weapons used on Iranians and his own people, allegedly, as well as other weapons of mass destruction. And then, of course, we had to go get him. Since 79, Iran has also been under restrictive American economic sanctions. We can't ignore that. Measures that have severely hindered the country's development. During his first term, Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal that Obama had signed and turned up the economic pressure. That was called the JCPOA, by the way. The Joint Cooperation Agreement. Anyway, the result was a collapse in the value of the Iranian rial, mass unemployment, soaring rents, and a doubling of the price of food. Ordinary people lost both their savings and their long-term security. That did happen after Trump pulled out. Not only that, it also freed up Iran to develop a nuclear weapon, even though nobody here seemed to think that that was allowed, even though we don't get to decide that. Throughout this, Trump has constantly threatened Iran with attack, finally following through in June, bombing a host of infrastructure projects inside the country that they never really responded to. There was proportional nonsense response, but they never really responded in kind. So, was this a legitimate protest? Well, of course it wasn't. The current demonstrations began on December 28th as a protest against rising prices. That was legit. Yet they quickly ballooned into something much bigger, with thousands calling for an overthrow of the government. And even the reinstatement of the monarchy under the son of the Shah. All right, that was definitely CIA-led. They were quickly supported and signal boosted by the U.S. and Israeli national security states. Again, no surprise. The Iranian regime is in trouble. Happy New Year. Again, we saw the Pompeo one about having Mossad agents walking beside them in the streets. There's the tweet. The Israeli intelligence services confirmed Pompeo's not-so-cryptic assertion. Quote, "Go out together into the streets. The time has come. We are with you. Not only from a distance and verbally, we are with you in the field." They were literally signaling to their assets to take over your institutions. Any debate about what Trump meant by American help was ended Monday when he stated that if Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, unbelievable, the USA will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. He also attempted to place an all-out economic blockade, announcing that any country trading with Tehran would now face an additional 25% tariff. All of this, added to the increasing violence of the protests, makes it much harder for Iranians to express themselves politically. What started as a demonstration about the cost of living has spiraled again into a huge, openly insurrectionist movement backed and fomented by the U.S. and Israel. Admittedly so. Iranians, of course, have every right to protest, but a wealth of factors have raised the very real possibility that much of the anti-government movement is an inorganic, U.S.-orchestrated attempt at regime change. I'm waiting for the pirate flag, the pirate meme flag, like they did in Mexico. While Iranians can argue about how they wish to express themselves and what sort of government they want, what is undebatable is that so many of the think tanks and NGOs called upon to provide supposed expert evidence and commentary about these protests are tools for the NED. That is the whole point, is that this is all from NED. So again, this was, like Defendant Bloom said, yes, a long article. Sorry for that, and not sorry because it's a good one. Yep. All right. Kate was born in 53, intrigued with that revolution of 52, 53 with Mossadegh. All right. Where we somehow caused a topple of the Shah, a topple of Mossadegh, and installed a Shah who then ruled for 26 years. Pretty wild. And then now they've been, religiously run by the Ayatollahs, but they still have a democratically elected president. All right. But yeah, a lot of this is U.S. led because what the whole goal is to destabilize Iran. They want to control the price of oil worldwide and control the supply of oil worldwide, especially now that we're controlling Venezuela's oil. They want to do it because Israel has been trying to get rid of Iran for decades. If you remember the 7 countries that Wesley Clark had named, Iran was the final one. They have already knocked out the leadership of every other one. So Iran is next on their hit list. Man, fuck Israel for all that. Because again, all of this is happening because Israel wants it to happen. A lot of this, because they want to be able to have their own control of resources, of oil, of shipping channel, which is why they're one of the reasons why they're bulldozing Gaza is they plan to make the Ben Gurion Canal. They keep denying it until the day that they actually do it. And then they're going to be like, well, yeah, we were going to do that the whole time. What do you mean? They're just gaslighting because everybody already knows what's going to happen. So, support independent media. I'm proud that we read the articles on this show. I know that it is long and sometimes hard to get through, but it is, thank you. Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action is what the JCPOA stood for. Thank you, Natalie. We are user funded. I know most shows, they don't read the article in full. We actually read the whole thing and let you decide for yourself. I also read it in full because a lot of times the article changes halfway through in tone. I actually caught an article that Israel-Palestine News had shared from Der Spiegel that started out being a good article and then shifted halfway through to Russiagating the entire time. And I'm like, I don't want this article to be shared. This is garbage. It's propaganda. But these amazing people have supported our network with a contribution. And you can join them by going to Cash App, $Indie News Network on your phone. co-fi.com/Indie News Network with a credit card. You can tip $5, $10 to get us a cup of coffee. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. That, as friends and family, will put it right in our account. Patreon.com/Indie News Network if you want to do a recurring monthly. Our website, IndieNewsNow.com. Remember, the show is called, you see in the bottom corner, IndieNewsNow.com. This is Indie News Now Live. IndieNewsNow.com has a section to keep the news free, and you can tip us over there. And then, of course, over at Substack, over at INNnewsletter.com, and at IndieMediaToday.com, where we are live again right now. Okay. I got a big ICE segment, and then we can get to the lightning round. But I do want to get to all this stuff because there's a ton of it. Oh my God. They're invading this country. They're turning into the IDF very quickly. All right, this is from Left Voice. I'm going to whip through these headlines. I'm not going to read through the whole article. Stanton Bloom wrote a great article I'm going to bring to. But yeah, it starts out that the police can't and won't protect us from ICE, from another Indie Media Award honoree, Left Voice. All right. ICE and the police are violent arms of the capitalist state, and neither can be an ally in the fight for immigrant and working class liberation. Totally agree. No, I know. I'm not. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. I wasn't trying to be rude. I've always said that we're just proud of reading the articles in full and letting people decide for themselves. I wasn't saying that to be rude at all. I'm sorry that occasionally that there are long articles, but I thought that one was important and covered a lot of history. Anyway, we've got this graphic there about La Migra and Policia. All right. It means the ICE, the cops, same shit. Right. It means that there's a reason that these chants have been popular protests from BLM to today's anti-ICE protests around the country. It recognizes the shared characteristics of the two institutions, as in Lenin's words, are special bodies of armed men that the capitalist state has at its command. So I want you to read this article. I'm, again, going to whip through it because I got a bunch of other stuff that I wanted that I wanted you guys to see as well. And again, I'm going to put all these links in the Substack afterwards, and I know I'm running long. And I think other people have talked about this on their shows. This was originally published over at 404 Media, but they paywalled it. So I went and found it somewhere else that wasn't paywalled. And this is about a Palantir app called Elite that ICE is right now using to target neighborhoods and find which neighborhoods to raid. Okay. So 404 Media, okay, Palantir is working on a tool for immigration and customs enforcement that populates a map with potential deportation targets, brings up a dossier on each person, and provides a confidence score on the person's current address. They're using it to find locations where lots of people it might detain might be based on internal ICE material obtained by 404 Media. Okay, public procurement records and recent sworn testimony from an ICE official shows the clearest link yet between the technological infrastructure the Palantir is building for ICE and the agency's activities on the ground. The tool receives people's addresses from HHS among a range of other sources according to the material. They also know like your medical history because we know the Palantir is getting access to that. They're getting access to a lot of different cross-reference databases, and allegedly they're stopping people in the streets and then face scanning them, running them through this database, and then seeing if they come up. And if they scan anything, they then scoop them up. That's called guilty until proven innocent. The news comes after Kristi Noem said that the agency is sending hundreds more federal agents to Minneapolis amid widespread protests against the agency. As we know, ICE officer Jonathan Ross now shot and killed 37-year-old U.S. citizen Renee Nicole Good during Operation Metro Surge, which DHS calls the largest immigration operation ever. Right? Immigration agents have surrounded rideshare drivers and used pepper spray on high school students. Why? Intimidation, escalation. All right. Elite, enhanced leads identification and targeting for enforcement is a targeting tool designed to improve capabilities for identifying and prioritizing high-value targets through advanced analytics. That's what the user guide says. The tool aims to be nearly all-encompassing when it comes to finding ICE targets, from identifying subjects in the first place, to building a list of people, to supervisors, approving selections for officers to ultimately go into the field and kidnap, aka apprehend. All right. One feature of Elite is the geospatial lead sourcing tab. That's literally like they're targeting people with GIS, with GPS on their phones. This lets ICE see people that it may potentially want to detain on a map interface based on various criteria such as bios and IDs, location, operations, and criminality. An ICE officer can then select people one by one, or draw a shape on the map and see people in that selected area. That's freaking scary. Elite has already been used by ICE to target specific areas, according to sworn testimony from an ICE agent in Oregon. In October, they waited in 3 unmarked SUVs outside an apartment complex in Woodburn. They went on to bust a driver's window and pull a 45-year-old woman from a van. They used that facial recognition app Mobile Fortify on her, and agents had the goal of making 8 arrests per team per day. That's a Stephen Miller-led thing, right? One of our apps, it's called Elite, quote, and so it tells you how many people are living in this area and what's the likelihood of them actually being there. That's unreal. It's basically a map of the United States. It's kind of like Google Maps. It pulls from all kinds of sources. It's a newer app that was actually given to us in ICE. Oh, man. And this is why we gave them billions of dollars to develop shit like this. We handed them the money and the tools to build a surveillance state around us, the prison control grid, as Catherine Austin Fitts refers to it as. Gross. All right. Then this is from the actual testimony. Right. JB and other officials were testifying in the case of MJMA, the woman pulled from the van during the Woodburn raid. She's being represented by attorneys from the Innovation Law Lab. Hopefully they're good attorneys, because she's going to need them. Once a person is selected on the map interface, Elite then shows a dossier on that particular person according to the user guide. That includes their name, their photo, their alien number, which is the unique code given by the U.S. government to each immigrant, their date of birth and full address. What about citizens? Elite notes the source of the address, all right, such as the government agency that supplied it, and gives an address confidence score. One address confidence score example in the guide is 98.95 out of 100. Another is 77.25 out of 100. And those are based on both the source of the address and how recent the data is. Right? ICE is literally paying skip tracers, private investigators, and bounty hunters to help verify people's addresses. Wow. These sources can, of course, include HHS, USCIS, Citizenship and Immigration, and CLEAR. The guide doesn't provide any more specifics on what CLEAR might be, but ICE has repeatedly contracted with Thomson Reuters, which sells a data product called CLEAR, like the one at the airport that does facial recognition and eye retina scans. Now, Thomson Reuters did not respond to a request for comment. Neither did HHS. What a surprise. All right, but also ICE can use Elite to look up people based on a unique identifier such as their alien number, name, or date of birth. It lets them do this in bulk, selecting up to 50 people at once. Imagine Greg Bovino with this power, with this tool at his disposal to target anybody that Stephen Miller tells him to go after. Right? These are groups of predefined aliens specifically targeted by leadership for action. Right? It's exactly what I'm talking about. So focused on the Somali community. Again, most of them are citizens. Citizens. The overwhelming majority of Somalis, oh, right, thank you, who live in Minneapolis are citizens, which means ICE has no reason to be involved with them. Right? But meanwhile, ICE is building this massive, Palantir is building this massive database. You've got a senator saying something toothless, a Democratic senator, useless, feckless, helping to build Big Brother. Yeah, meanwhile, half the Democratic senators are also shareholders in Palantir and would vote for this same shit. The Elite User Guide doesn't say who developed the system, but the tool's distinctive title exactly matches one included in an addendum to a Palantir contract from last year. It says Palantir should, quote, continue configuration and engineering services for Elite and some other ICE tools. So, yes, right there it is in black and white. Palantir has worked with ICE for years and was focused on criminal investigations. Thanks, Obama. Supporting Homeland Security investigations, investigative case management system. Thanks, Biden. That changed in the second Trump administration with Palantir now working on ICE's deportation efforts. Thanks, Trump. It's all uniparty. Go through this whole article. There's even more there. Right, again, it's a tool that gives you a probability, but there's never such a thing as 100%. The user guide adds, as always, make sure you do your due diligence on each target to confirm removability prior to action. Because we know ICE is definitely doing that, right? Yeah, fuck those guys. All right. This one was messed up, and we found out that he was severely injured and in Texas. All right. Mauricio Hernandez Serrano is alive but injured following his Sunday arrest. He was violently detained by federal immigration agents at a St. Paul gas station, now been moved to a Texas detention center and could be deported to Honduras. He lost consciousness and he was pinned to the ground by multiple agents, then brutally dragged and handled while unable to move or respond. It was horrible. When he was able to briefly speak to his sister Tuesday morning last week, he said he had not been medically evaluated or received medical attention despite suffering from significant pain, particularly to a leg that had recently undergone surgery. I believe that the actual incident itself. Look at this photo. They bashed his window, right, and then pulled him out. Here we go. Shout out to Ford Fisher. Ford Fisher, by the way, is an Indie Media Award honoree, as is News to Share. Shout out to Ford. All right, let's open this up and watch this video. This is where they pull the guy out of his car.
Back up! You can do it! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Hey! Back up! Hey, go one way or the other. Don't take off. Back up.
And the passenger side, he's not even driving.
Back up.
Back up, guys. Back up. We're going to back you on up for our safety and your safety. You can back up. Back up.
I understand.
Stay there.
There you go.
Is that Bovino? I think it is. The little guy. Little guy.
Hey, Call of Duty there. Proud of yourself? You're like a big tough guy? Paintball ass guy? One last cup. You got the right. You got the right. Get to the pig. You got the right. That's all. There you go.
Like, why?
Back up. Back up.
Back up. One more. One more. You go back there, and then I'll
That
put
is
you on the
Bovino.
wrist. One more. You get back there one more time. Back up. Back up.
Little Nazi.
Give him your hand. Give him your hand. Now. Give him your hand. Give him your hand. Give him your hand.
Dragging him on the ground. Like, really? This is Nazi shit. He's literally like limp. They got him in a chokehold right there. And now they're just kidnapping him, throwing him in a van, disappearing him. And nobody knew what happened to this guy. Look at this. They're all threatening with pepper guns, pepper spray guns. And shout out to Ford Fisher and News to Share, getting footage like this, for documenting what the hell these people are doing. These are war crimes too, by the way. Like, I don't care what anybody says. You cannot do this. You cannot do this shit. Here's one that hit close to home for me. This happened last Saturday in Morristown, New Jersey. Neighbors found this 6-year-old girl walking down the street alone, crying out for her father because ICE took her father when he went to go get food, according to the mother. Oh, watch this one.
To the mother, who was at work at the time, a neighbor found the child walking by herself on the street, crying out for her dad, asking, quote, "Where's Poppy? Where's Poppy?" The mother tells MS Now the father pleaded with ICE agents, telling them his daughter is all alone.
Hey, my daughter's inside. Please, only let me one call. They may call her the mother. You know, I'm not resisting no arrest. And I feel the police or the, ICE immigration, no. We don't coming for your daughter, and just start laughing in the face. We're not coming for your daughter. We don't care for your daughter.
MS Now's Laura Hayfully joins me now. Laura, what else did she tell you?
Chris, I've been in contact with that family since this happened, and of course, they're heartbroken, they're confused, but especially for their 6-year-old daughter who was left in the street to watch her father be detained by ICE. The mayor of Morristown confirmed to us that during this ICE operation, multiple people were arrested right here outside of a local laundromat, including Adonai Rodriguez, the father of that 6-year-old. We have video from that ICE operation. You can see ICE agents running through the street, working to detain people, using vehicles to box them in order to put them in handcuffs. Following this moment was the arrest of Adonai Rodriguez. He was handcuffed and he was led into a vehicle, again with his 6-year-old daughter, wondering where he was being taken to.
And then what these assholes will do is end up charging the mother and the father with child endangerment, even though they're the ones that left the kid abandoned. These pieces of shit. Wait, I got more. This is a crazy one. All right. And this apparently hit home with one of our friends over on Rumble and my friend on Facebook, Chuck. He lives in the area. He's been helping give information about what's happening locally. Yesterday, according to Matt McDermott, Reuters captured ICE breaking down a door and dragging a man out half naked into the freezing cold in St. Paul. According to his sister, they returned him after realizing he's a naturalized U.S. citizen with no criminal record. So they busted in the door, they wouldn't let him get dressed, and they carried him out in the snow and walked him down the street with a blanket on him. So, from the Hmong American experience, all right, ICE came to my brother-in-law Sally's apartment, broke down the door, trashed the place, handcuffed him, and put a gun to his daughter-in-law's head. They didn't allow him to put on proper clothing and forced him outside in freezing weather. He's a naturalized U.S. citizen. He has no criminal record. ICE drove him around for nearly an hour, questioned him, fingerprinted him. Only after all of that, even though they have this elite software, did they realize he had no criminal history and no reason to be detained? Bullshit. They then dropped him back off his apartment like nothing happened. Sorry, our bad. We believe they were looking for someone who previously lived there, but instead of asking for identification, they chose violence, intimidation, and humiliation. Now, I understand that it was a little different, that it actually, Homeland Security made this insane statement as a rebuttal, but it isn't a rebuttal, it's a confession. They confirm terrorizing and humiliating an innocent American citizen. Not one word of apology for dragging him out of his home, half naked, into the freezing cold. What's their statement? She quote tweets him. Like bragging. Yesterday in St. Paul, ICE conducted a targeted operation of 2 convicted sex offenders who weren't in that house. One of the criminal targets had convictions for sex with a minor and sexual assault. This is what they do, is they accuse people of sex crimes. Okay. The other target had convictions for sex assault with penetration in the first degree, domestic violence, and violating a protective order. Both also have convictions for failure to register as sex offenders. Just the worst of the worst, right? Except they weren't in the house. They both have final orders of removal from an immigration judge. Okay, but not for that house. The U.S. citizen lives with these 2 convicted sex offenders at the site of the operation. No, they don't. That's a straight up lie. They don't live there. The individual refused to be fingerprinted and facially ID'd. Also not true. He matched the description of the targets. Sure he did. as with any law enforcement agency, it's standard protocol to hold all individuals in a house of an operation for safety of the public and law enforcement. Yeah, it looked like you were really looking out for his safety and the safety of the public. Okay, again, deflecting that both of these sexual predators, neither of whom were caught and involved here, remain at large in St. Paul. So they can continue to terrorize other people's houses looking for them, basically. Right? So this guy says, no. The family of the U.S. citizen dragged that the U.S. citizen, that was dragged out of his home, says that she's peddling lies. They say no warrant was shown, no one else lives there, and they have no relationship to the person whom ICE was supposedly looking for. Homeland Security lying again to defend unlawful abuse. All right. The family of Chong Lee Scott Thao categorically disputes the DHS's public statement regarding the ICE operation conducted on January 18th in St. Paul. He's a U.S. citizen with no criminal record. He does not live with, nor has he ever lived with, the individuals DHS claims were the targets of this operation. The only people residing in the home are Mr. Thao, his son, who Chuck knows apparently, or someone who he knows the son, his daughter-in-law, and his young grandson. They do not know the individuals that DHS references. ICE agents did not present a warrant, did not ask for identification, and nevertheless forcibly entered the home with weapons drawn. Mr. Thao willingly went with ICE despite knowing he had done nothing wrong. During the operation, he was removed from his home wearing only underwear in approximately 12-degree weather, in full view of his family and neighbors. He suffers from psoriasis, a serious medical condition that's exacerbated by extreme cold and stress. This treatment was unnecessary, degrading, and deeply traumatizing. And I hope that he sues these guys, but good luck getting paid out. The family strongly objects to DHS's attempt to publicly justify this conduct with false and misleading claims. Smears! These statements have caused now additional harm to a family already struggling to recover from a terrifying and unjustified encounter. Fucking pieces of shit. The family is actively pursuing legal representation and has filed complaints with the ACLU of Minnesota and the Office of Keith Ellison, who's the AG of Minnesota. Due to the ongoing legal process, no further comment will be made at this time. Okay, great. So that's a good thing that they're suing them, but good luck again ever getting restitution. All right. Didn't end there. Let's remind you that a citizen of Navajo Nation was detained by ICE in Phoenix. Peter Yazzie was reportedly carrying a tribal ID, but still was violently arrested. An officer then put a knee on his back, just like we saw there with the guy at the gas station, which can be lethal because it can cut off a person's breathing. Gross. And they just get away with it. Nobody's stopping them. All right. And this one is horrifying as well. And I, again, encourage everyone to go read this at Descent Bloom. .substack.com. ICE now has sections for U.S. citizens. I'm sorry. Yes. First Nations. That's right. I'm sorry, Kameshwari Kate. You're right. But U.S. citizens have their own section now at detention sites. Why is ICE detaining that many U.S. citizens that they find it necessary to create a separate section to cordon off the American citizens that they're detaining from the immigrants? Okay? Horrible. So, again, this is a long article, somewhat long, but again, I'm running a little bit long here. So, again, I encourage everyone to read this. It's a really good article. Okay. Today also marks, and we covered back in November, this journalist, Yakub Viandre, now 100 days in ICE detention. Why? Because he covered social media posts against Israeli genocide and U.S. government mistreatment of prisoners. You're not allowed to do that, I guess, as a photojournalist. All right. Yeah. So free Yakub, for sure. He's still there. Why? Why is there no due process? Why are these guys being held? Because they're in detention centers and processing facilities. They're not allowed to talk to their lawyers on a regular basis. Like, the rules go out the window, and again, nobody's holding them accountable. Next. Your Ring camera, by the way, if you have a Ring camera, get rid of it if you haven't yet, because it's snitching to ICE. Ring has now partnered with Flock. ICE has access to Flock. So ICE now is going to be able to tap into the Ring cameras to spy on your street. So if you have a Ring camera, disable it and get yourself a regular fucking doorbell. I've never had a Ring camera. I never wanted a snitch camera, ever. Here's another one. Labor politics. This is a 3-person article that was published last week. Want to stop ICE? Go after its corporate collaborators. ICE can't function without help from the private sector, so let's force the private sector to stop helping. This is a BDS type of article. Over the past week, activists around the country successfully pushed Avelo Airlines to stop running deportation charter flights. Workers in Minneapolis pushed a Hilton affiliate to stop renting rooms to ICE agents. Another one had actually published their names illegally, and he got in trouble for that, but not all heroes wear capes. But these wins are just a fraction of what could be achieved if the millions of people who are outraged by ICE's thuggery organized to pressure all companies to stop working with ICE. Right? So again, I'm going to put this one in the description, but I also want to follow up with that and point out that Sludge, now this is a paywalled article. I'm a big supporter and a paid supporter of Sludge. Read sludge.com. The companies behind ICE. Donald Shore, David Moore. Right? They mapped out an interactive map of every ICE contractor working with the Trump admin. So now you can find out who in your state is working with ICE and boycott and divest from them and put your own personal sanctions on those organizations and tell everybody about it. All right. Last year, ICE obligated more money than ever to private contractors, and this year it's on pace to easily top last year's record. More than 600 companies have been working with Trump's ICE, including businesses in every state. Using usaspending.gov data, Sludge created an interactive map that shows every company in the U.S. that has either entered into a new contract with ICE during the second Trump admin or has been awarded new obligations under an existing contract. And you can click on that map for details, including amounts and contract service descriptions. So if I just go into Washington State, for example, and we drill down into the Seattle area, we can look at that UCLA, okay? They provide wireless service provider network transition. That also does the speed test, UCLA. So they're probably providing speed test services. There's SAP with a $3 million contract for travel services. And you've got Phoenix Trading for hygiene items at the Florence Detention Center, literally down to who's providing the toilet paper at detention centers. Start boycotting these companies. Start calling them on the carpet. Start having op-eds in your local paper published about how they're helping the Gestapo, the modern day thugs, to create this nasty, disgusting surveillance state that we're now going to be all subject into. File on Coup, over $1 million contract for record software management. All right. So again, since Trump's inauguration, ICE has approved contract obligations totaling $5 billion, more than $5. All right. While most of ICE's contracting dollars go to large prison and tech companies, that's Geo Group and CoreCivic and Palantir and Google and Amazon, the agency's network of private sector partners extends across the country and spans a wide range of industries. Nearly every state is home to ICE contractors, including companies with million plus contracts, like I just showed you, that operate out of unexpected locations like suburban neighborhoods or rural areas. Almost 2/3 of ICE's spending obligations so far under Trump's second term have gone to just 7 companies. The top recipient has been Albuquerque-based CSI Aviation, which is ICE's main contractor for deportation flights, which has received more than $1 billion in contract obligations. CSI Aviation, which hosted a rally for Trump days before his recent election, has seen its ICE revenue soar since the start of last year, or at a 10x increase compared with May, before the passage of the Trump GOP reconciliation bill. All right, I think Descent in Blue might have covered that. All right, Geo Group, the largest private prison operator in the country, has received $683 million worth of contract obligations since Trump re-entered the White House. And another prison company, Core Civic, another $269 million. The company's stock prices rose last year under a $45 billion plan in the Trump-signed One Big Beautiful Bill Act, right? So, again, just follow the money, and that's what this allows you to do. Go follow the money with this interactive map of finding out who in your area, and let's just say I live in New Jersey, hypothetically, because I do. All right. And we can see in the northern half of New Jersey, like Morristown, Cellbrite got an $11 million contract for forensic equipment and services. So can we pressure them to give up? Now they're in Parsippany. Can we create a pressure campaign to get Cellbrite to give up their ICE contract? This is great work by Sludge, by the way. I agree, Wombat. Again, support independent media. I've been a supporter of theirs and a paid subscriber of theirs for a year and a half. Yes, Albuquerque-based CSI Innovation. Jesus effing Christ, that's right, Kate. Unbelievable. All these little companies you never heard of. This one is, what, out of Brooklyn? Night vision goggles, $44,000 contract out of Brooklyn. This one out of Bridgewater. iConnective. This order provides a platform to assist Homeland Security agents in obtaining ported number information from service providers. You know who's in Bridgewater? AT&T headquarters. Real close to that. That would be my guess. Somerset. They actually had that targeted. Bernardsville, New Jersey, targeted. The Russians had it targeted for destruction because it was the head of AT&T that at one point was the center of network connectivity across the United States, all the phone lines. All right. Natalie, yes, here is the link. Here, again, it is a paywalled article, but it's $5 a month to get into Sludge. I will drop that link in the description for everyone. Big, beautiful bukkake. Oh, that's gross, Mastermind. Thank you. Thanks for that. There, Natalie, asking for the link. Natalie is a big supporter of INNs, and so happy to send that. And again, all these links will be in the Substack that announced the stream. I put all the links in those Substacks every week after the stream's over. But fuck ICE. And we have to go after their funding. We've got to go after their money. The only thing that these people understand is fucking with their money. Some brand name companies are keeping up contracts with ICE as the agency has tackled, tased, shot American citizens and immigrants in what civil rights group, including ACLU, argue is a violation of due process everywhere. Deloitte has been given almost $50 million in obligated payments under Trump for services, including logistical and administrative support. Dell's raked in $25 million for licensing of Microsoft's business intelligence platform, Power BI. Like, they don't need to support these organizations. Thomson Reuters, like we said, has got that $7.5 million subscription service to law enforcement databases. Well, now we know what that is, right? We just read about that. Right? Xerox has been awarded more than $153,000 for equipment, like all the copiers. Making copies at the copier for 150 grand. Right? Oh, God. Fuck these guys. And here again is the list where you can then sort it to see who's getting the most money. Core Civic, Tribal Co., Acima Infrastructure Protection. That would be security around the facilities. All right. This was, again, Donald Shaw and David Moore over at Sludge. Go support independent media, support Sludge. Okay. Wow. I still have a lightning round. Thank you for sticking with me. Appreciate everyone. Support independent media. Again, the ways to do that. Cash App, $ Indie News Network. Code-V.com/Indie News Network. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. Patreon.com/Indie News Network. We have like 15 patrons. Over at IndieNewsNow.com, click the section to keep the news free. And then over at IndieMediaToday.com, over on Substack, and at INNNewsletter.com. Yeah, I got a couple of more things, and then we're gonna do the GoFundMe's and get out of here. All right. So, but yes, thank you. I can go all night long. I did have a lot of stuff. Thank you, and I apologize at the same time. ReadSludge.com. That is the website, correct? Don't hit the paywall. Oh, you're not hitting the paywall. Maybe I made it free, or maybe I sent you the link to the one that that unlocked the paywall from my email. That's possible too. Okay, so another Indie Media Award honoree here. I'm going to talk about them in a second. Decensored News. Friend of the show, friend of the network. I saw this yesterday, then posted on YouTube or on Twitter, reaching out to YouTube asking for help. We've been trying to access advanced features. That was turned on like on day 1 or 2 for us at INN on YouTube. Okay, for at least 2 years, it seems to be stuck. Your info page says for most creators, it usually happens within 2 months. It usually happens within an hour. We've posted 74 videos, have almost 2,000 subscribers, and our top video has almost 600,000 views. We don't have anything close to that. As far as we're aware, they haven't violated a community guideline or gotten a copyright strike or gotten a guideline strike in over 2 years. They likewise have not done any of the other actions listed in the troubleshooting section about what could get them in trouble. Yet, they can't even post links in their descriptions because they can't move on to the next phase. All right, asking, is someone looking into this? Again, we recommend that you continue building your channel history. Oh, no, they're active and have been. Oh, and they can also provide verification. Sure. And let me guess, they're going to want a facial ID. Fuck these people. All right. Absolute garbage. I recommended a Descent in Bloom article earlier. I actually have another one to recommend in the lightning round, From Hysteria to Toxic Empathy. And she wrote this. This is a personal article about how women are treated in independent media and in politics in general, how we pathologize women's politics. And it was a fascinating article. And I, again, highly recommend that you read this one. All right. This wasn't just misogyny. It was strategy. She had stumbled onto a years-long coordinated alt-right movement designed to break women, and she was looking right at the heart of it. Not being bullied by a few angry guys in their basements, targeted by an entire marketing campaign. Yes, kill your egregores, we are still live. DJ Hyona's in the house. What's up? All right. So, descentandbloom.substack.com. Again, all these links are going to be in the Substack afterwards over at IndieMediaToday.com. I brought an article earlier from The Dissident. Again, another article from The Dissident. And I mentioned this earlier, every House Democrat votes against defunding the NED. Why? It's clearly a cutout of the CIA. Literally every Democrat voted for the NED, not to cut it. Eli Crane introduced a provision in the recent spending package that would cut funding for the NED, which is a cutout used for regime change. In response to his amendment to defund NED, every House Democrat, including progressives, like AOC and Ro Khanman and Ilhan Omar voted against it, along with 81 Republicans, which slapped down the amendment 291 to 127. All right. And again, it's going to talk about what is the NED. I read that long article from Alan McLeod about that. But basically, every Democrat voted to keep the NED in place. Are you fucking stupid? Yeah, they are. And they're owned and controlled. They had no choice, I'm guessing. They were told that they had to vote yes. Okay, finally, another antiwar.com Indie Media Award honoree. All right, Kyle Anzalone, also Indie Media Award honoree as a journalist. Right, originally published at judgenap.com and reprinted with permission. Ukraine reports 200,000 soldiers are AWOL and 2 million Ukrainians are avoiding conscription into their military, which is a death sentence, basically, sent to the front lines to die for no reason, to be cannon fodder for NATO. Fuck that. So check out antiwar.com, Kyle Anzalone. All right, that's our lightning round. I got through that pretty quickly. Good. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. Those are the ways to do it, fam. I love you. So now let's just quickly get to the GoFundMes. All right, again, that's our Wall of Fame. I love everybody on there. Thank you for participating and for supporting independent media. First is Shanda. Shanda Master. We talked last week about Shanda going through, originally it was small cell lung cancer, and then it spread. It's now spread into one of her eyes, apparently. We found this out last week. She also got a visit from Pasta and Oz and all the family over at Roar Media. We showed you pictures of that last week. I just want to show the GoFundMe because she could use some help. Travel to Seattle and having to maintain bills while not living at home so that she can attend treatment at the hospital. It's taxing on finances. So anything anybody can do, please help out and throw a couple of bucks. And if not, just at least send a message of support, something. Love Shanda, host of Trailer Park Pundit and Beauty and the Boomer. I heard some hopefully good news, but I don't want to tease it, and I'll let her tell you whatever that is. And I've been using her updates to kind of keep people informed. She had put something in early January where she had completed second-line chemo. I read this a couple of weeks ago, so go to the GoFundMe and read her updates about what's happening. Next, I also wanted to make note, I think Cowboy Kitty might be in the chat. His sister-in-law, Natalia Vlechkova, was taken over the summer, or in May, I think it was in May, by ICE, all right, or in June. She was taken at a routine traffic stop over a question about a registration. They then locked her up. They impounded her car, and she is still sitting in an ICE detention facility pending appeal or deportation, whichever the government decides they want to do first, I guess. Man, what a mess. But again, she could also use a couple of bucks. I know just before the year end, we were able to contribute with a little bit of mutual aid there. But mutual aid is how we get each other through. And shout out to Natalie Williams, who had sent Shanda a care package and always steps up for everybody. You can see she donated $100 here. She's always stepping up for everybody, like also here at Justice for Aspen. I guarantee you, you'll see Natalie Williams' name there too. She's so special. Thank you, Natalie. Really. We know about what happened with Aspen. They had a goal of $12,500 to hire the investigator in order to explore discovery and see exactly what the state of Georgia and what the federal government has as far as their case. If you don't know about what happened to Aspen, he was in the wrong car in the wrong place at the wrong time. And she was in an RV that was pulled over in May in Georgia on her way back from a festival in Florida. And under somebody's seat or hidden somewhere were mass quantities of drugs that led to a drug trafficking charge against her and the driver of the vehicle, whose drugs they actually were. Driver even said she didn't even know about it. It wasn't her. She's not involved. But everyone in the vehicle got charged and arrested. She spent 15 days in a county detention facility in Georgia. It was a nightmare. I interviewed Aspen and her mother, Halo Benson. Halo and Aspen were Assange activists in the fight to free Julian Assange in Oklahoma, which is how we met in the first place. And when I heard about it, immediately we started talking about her case. Back in October, I did a one-on-one with the two of them, letting them tell her story. And then we did a fundraiser, Justice for Aspen, at the end of October. And we were able to raise enough to get her up to that $12,500 by Christmas time. Unfortunately, a lot more than that $12,500 is needed. And they probably need to up the amount again so that people know that more is still needed. And they need to hire more lawyers and investigators and continue to fight this unjust charge where she's literally looking at decades in prison if she loses this fight. So I love you. I love you, Halo and Aspen. Nobody deserves this kind of treatment and what's happening to her. She is autistic on top of it all, so all the sensory stuff is really taxing. She's got, food and digestive issues. So she has special food that she requires, and none of that was being adhered to in Georgia prison. We're really worried what would happen to her if she's actually forced to go to jail. She should not have to. This is a horrible injustice. So, I don't know if she's actually Aspen Fallen. I think that might be a different person, but I could be wrong. Lastly, we did the GoFundMe, so we're through that. Again, Indie News Now, I talked about it earlier. This is a website, I'm going to refresh it, that rolls 24/7 with news, okay, with RSS articles from over 100 publications, Substacks, and outlets. Also, Rumble videos from a bunch of different channels, Odyssey videos from channels, all podcasts, all of that here. And you can look by category, but also you can watch live. Whenever INN's live, we're live here at this website, Indie News Now, as well. Like I said, also you can keep the news free and click there. And that is our Stripe link where you can tip the network directly with any payment method that you'd like. All right. And then also you can check out the latest merch. So there's a link to merch here and a merch there. And actually, funny enough, I actually made some graphics today showcasing some of the latest merch. And I saw Topher said that he got his hoodie recently or today. I'm so excited for mine. Here are some of the other merch items that you can get. This is a brand new item that just went in yesterday, which is the green tie indie logo t-shirt, hoodie, tank top. Only in black because of the white arms. It can't be a white shirt because the arms and the lapels disappear. So, Indie News Now, that's the website. You can get a t-shirt. Eat that watermelon. And all of these have the INN logo small on the back, like just below the neckline. Ladies t-shirts, tank tops, like I said. Then we've also got here Angel in the Afternoon logos and INN logo circle hoodie sweatshirts and stickers like Care Bear and INN logos, right? And then we've also got an INN 8 the Ocho logo. There was a t-shirt earlier. Care Bear shirts with ladies tee. Tons and tons of different merch at the site, which you can get to again by going to IndieNewsNow.com and then click the merch link. There's another new one, a special one. Cats or Dicks. That was also added by my request. So I'm actually going to go to that and show you what the Cats or Dicks ones look like. All right, I designed this graphic over the weekend and sent it over to our t-shirt design fam. And again, this is available in men's or ladies t-shirt or hoodie or tank top. Cats or Dicks, and here's what the back looks like. And you can get it in black, which is $23, or white, which is $20. All the shirts are $3 extra for black. So go to IndieNewsNow.com, click the merch link, and you'll be able to get any of the items that I just showed you. So, Avatar intensifies. That's right. All right, fam. I know. I went super long tonight. I thank you again for sticking with me. Wow. I'm spent. I have the biggest heart. Thank you, man. I love you. I love you too, man. Is that Yona with the hillbilly banjo over there? I think so. Yona smoked more of the weeds, and oh, I was just a viewer, not a guest. Who was just a viewer? I don't know. It is Yona. Yona's got twins. Yona's still recovering. You go hook up Yona. The High Peasants Pro podcast still is going on. Go. He's over at Bandcamp too. Yona, drop your Bandcamp in there if you can. I don't know if you can or not. But anyway, I'm gonna cut out for the night. I love you all. I could do this all night, but I'm not gonna. And thank you for everything. Yes, next. Oh, Jesse Jett. Somebody said Jesse Jett. We're gonna do an American tradition on next Thursday night. This Thursday night, I got a tease because we're gonna do a one-on-one. I have a scheduled one-on-one to record Thursday at noon, and then we're gonna run it live as a premiere stream on Thursday night. There's Yona's Bandcamp. Thank you, Kate, for putting that up. But yeah, we're gonna do it Thursday night, 10 Eastern, and it's a surprise guest that I think you'll all be really happy for. And I'm super excited to have to speak to this person and someone I've admired for a while. So stick with us Thursday night. Tomorrow night, of course, we're gonna have INN News with Reef and Colin. Friday, we're going to have Angel in the afternoon after the Independent Review in the morning. AM Wake Up simulcast all week. Boats Uncensored Sunday night over on the Ocho on Rumble. No YouTube. And then we'll be back here next Tuesday night to do it all over again. Bad Cookies, you're not supposed to... What are you doing, bro? You're blowing my spots. You're blowing my stuff up. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I'll see you soon. Have a good night, fam. No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry. My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here. Cost of living isn't much to me, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to save. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe?
Fresh off the masses, the brand new cancerous growth, who has come here to vie for your vote. Come here to cry at the camps and to mourn at the shore for the bodies that float by the wreck of an immigrant boat. Then it's back to their luxury home, couple security booths and a moat. Couple cigars, little escargot, little booze and a soak. Just breathe in the steam and the smoke. Pink salt, lavender, candles are low. Shit, when you do what you do, gotta lighten the load. And he got a life of his own that's a sight to behold. And it's a lot to control, to decipher the code or to siphon the soul. The cost of a good night's sleep for the working elite is a bargain, no matter the toll. Worth any wager, and that comes straight from the mouth of the means to the goal that will swallow us whole. Right for the picking if you don't mind mold, and you know I don't. Maybe we're pleasantly prone, maybe we're taking a licking, compliantly ticking and ticking and ticking, but never explode. No, I don't deliver the prettiest image, but damn if it isn't an accurate vision of natural fission, of rage at the system and abject heartbreak, patiently waiting for any who will listen. That little blue bird who was watching your words is a federal carrier pigeon, a Langley first. It's a patient observer who hears what it wants and is trained for the worst. Oh, you got nothing to hide. They'll be the ones to decide that after they root through your purse, after they read all your text, after they raid your apartment, confiscate all of its contents, then conjure up evidence out of the air on a wing and a prayer and malicious intelligence nonsense. Any presumption of innocence long since gone, right along with your comforts and constants. Historically first they will come for the communists. So why in the fuck would I say I'm a communist? Well, it might be I love my community more than the monsters of opulence who are holding us hostage, who are vomiting promises. Might be I'm all done seeing our pensions and benefits harvested. Might be I'm all done watching the populace being disarmed in the guise of an armistice. Watching a woman collapse on the floor who will rise no more. She is wheeled out the door and you're next in line for the pharmacist. If you can get me to vote, it's a hard no confidence. But part of the charm of deception is politics wearing the mask of incompetence. It's all in the art of austerity, darling. It's all in the slide of the providence. Until home is as wide as your cubicle height and is only as deep as your coffin is. Maybe I'm miles away from impatience, aching to break off the head of the snake where the capital lust, reptile brain, and the margin of profit is. Like off with his. Like off with his.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make,